It's hard to say which was the most surprised, Roy Acuff or the WSM mailroom. Wife Mildred suggested that Mr. Acuff should draw up a songbook of his Grand Ole Opry hits and sell it on the radio. He printed 1,000 copies and prepared for a long wait. By the end of the week, WSM was dealing with 10,000 envelopes, each containing a dollar bill and a return address. Eventually, the book sold over 100,000 copies. This led Roy Acuff to think there might be big money in music publishing. He was right. In 1942, Nashville didn't have any music publishing houses, but Acuff knew a man who knew the publishing business inside out. Fred Rose, a self-taught piano player and singer, was working just down the hall at WSM. Rose had written several pop hits for people like Lena Horne and Fats Waller, and had composed cowboy songs for Gene Autry and Roy Rogers. Acuff had some spare change from his songbook adventure and offered to bankroll a partnership with Rose in a publishing company. He put $25,000 in an account under Rose's name, they shook hands, and Acuff-Rose was born. The company hit the ground running, and not 1 cent of Acuff's money was ever touched. In a way, Acuff and Rose were an odd combination to start a publishing business. Years later, Mr. Acuff admitted, "We were like blind pigs searching for an acorn." Rose was an ear musician and couldn't read or write sheet music. Acuff hated the business side of music and hated to write checks. Fortunately, people like Owen Bradley were around to write down the songs Fred Rose wrote, and Mildred wrote all the checks for the company. It was a marriage made in heaven. In 1945, Fred Rose's son Wesley visited his dad's new business. Wesley, an accountant in Standard Oil's Chicago office, was invited to look at Acuff-Rose's books. He drew 2 conclusions. The company was making money, and the books were a real mess. It took a lot of persuasion and a promise that he could do things his own way, but Wesley agreed to take over Acuff-Rose's business affairs. It gave Fred Rose more time to write songs. It was fate that Roy Acuff and Fred Rose were both at WSM at the same time. It was also fate that Pee Wee King and Red Stewart were driving a Nashville-bound truck when they heard a WSM disc jockey play Bill Monroe's record of The Kentucky Waltz. That prompted Pee Wee and Red to write a song about Red's home state. The first draft of Tennessee Waltz was written on a flattened-out matchbook. Eventually, over 500 artists recorded the song, including Patti Page. Acuff-Rose has over 40,000 songs in its catalog, but Tennessee Waltz is the crown jewel. Fate also brought Hank and Audrey Williams to interrupt a ping-pong game between Fred and Wesley Rose. Audrey did most of the talking, but it was Hank's lyrics that brought Fred Rose to sign Hank Williams as an Acuff-Rose writer.